other episodes, I kind of paint this picture of why we need to get our asses back to work because our modern society is it's set up so we are dependent upon everybody else for our food supply, for our bottled water, for all our health care, our electricity, our natural gas, our oil, everything. We are dependent upon somebody else. And I said if we don't get our asses back to work, then one day there's going to be no truck driver. They're not going to drive your food across the country, and then there's going to be no food. Or they do drive it, there's going to be no grocery workers to stock the shelves, and then you're not going to have any food because we know that you're not going to go in your backyard and tend to your crops because you probably either don't have land or you don't have crops. Even if you did, would you want to grow your own food out in your backyard, enough food to live for 365 days, grow it, maintain it, pull all the weeds out of it, harvest it, freeze it, prepare it, and then tomorrow at noon when you feel like having tacos, are you going to make your own tortillas and cook all your every meal? If you had to cook it from scratch, how time consuming would that be? Yeah, we don't do that, right? We order our food in a goddamn box, and or frozen meals or prepared meals, or we just drive down to Chipotle Grill, we go to McDonald's, we go to the sushi joint. We depend on everybody else. We don't live like we lived 200 years ago. And in that same bucket, what about healthcare? I said, what happens when you get to the hospital and there's no nurses to take care of you? And I say that because I'm in the hospital multiple times, and I was appreciative of the people that were there to take care of me 24 hours a day when I was there. What happens when there's not enough? Well, I expanded that. I'm like, well, wait a minute. What happens when there's no EMS workers? So you get T-boned on the freeway. Not the freeway, can't get. I guess you could get T-boned on the freeway. You get T-boned on the road, on a red light or something, and there no EMS workers show up, and you're just laying there, bleeding out. And there's no one there to save your ass. What happens? And I was painting that picture, and then holy shit, look what happens. EMS service worker shortage could lead to death spiral. So come to find out, we do have an EMS worker shortage too. So, I've been painting this picture for over a month or two that this is where we're going. The EMS workers, the nurses, what about the people that take out the trash and clean up the hospitals? There's so many people that are part of this process, and we take advantage of it, right? We sit back and we take it for granted. That's the right word. We take it for granted that you're just going to dial 911 and someone's going to drive by and come save your ass and take you to the hospital, and there's going to be a team of people waiting there. What happens when no one shows up? I often say that in this world you can't count on nobody. You got to save yourself. But in the case when you get T-boned and you're trapped in a car, what happens when there is no one to save you? What happens when the firefighters don't show up and the police don't show up and the EMS don't show up? This is where we're going because we can't get people back to work. We essentially gave people a whole bunch of money to stay home. Many people, and not all, but many people not only took all the extra money, but they didn't even pay their bills with it. So then we got landlords hurting. We got people sitting on a stockpile of cash, so they don't have to go back to work yet. And a lot of people are sitting around waiting for the next stimulus plan so they don't have to go back to work. Meanwhile, we don't have EMS, we don't have truck drivers, there's ships backed up at the ports. Everywhere we go, there's shortages and more shortages and more shortages. At what point do you finally say, hey, we got to get people back to work? There's a lot of times where I say this is what happens if we do UBI, let's do the $1,000 a month thing. We just learned UBI in that sense doesn't work. You can't give people money and not get production. They have to be doing something. Maybe UBI works one day, but it has to be in trade for something. If you get $1,000 a month, you need to give $1,000 of productivity back to the economy. Whether you're picking up trash on the side of the road, whether you're working at a nonprofit, whether you're working in a hospital, you have to do something for that money, because this is what happens. You give people money, and they get just enough money to survive. They would rather struggle than work. I don't know why have we not learned our lesson? This is what happens. Throw the textbooks out. We got the real case study now. The bigger issue is like, is this the end of it, or is this the start of it? Does it get worse from here? Did we get so used to be sitting at home for 12, 18 months with the money? Did we not go back? I don't know, man. It's not a good feeling. I keep seeing, I don't see empty shelves in the grocery stores, but it's getting harder and harder to find items. I've been trying to get a certain brand of milk for a month right now, and I can't get it. My dad sent me a message saying the bacon he gets is now $10 a pound. Like, we got inflation issues, we got supply chain shortages, we got worker shortages that are affecting even more of the supply chain. We got healthcare worker shortages, EMS shortages. Um, I've been hearing about even some of the cities having a shortage of people that are doing more of the general labor type of jobs. Um, how many restaurants I've seen that are hiring, or they just said screw it, we're shutting down because we have no workers, we can't deal with this. Dude, I just went to Starbucks and they're closing at 4 o'clock. This Starbucks usually has a line wrapped around the building, sun up to sundown. To see Starbucks closing at 4 is mind blowing to me. So they can't even get enough workers to keep the goddamn store open. So what about the small business that isn't Starbucks that's sitting out a bunch of cash right now? You're watching the mom and pop restaurants go out of business. Small franchisees owners are hurting. It's not good times, man. If there's anything this administration needs to do right now, is figure out how in the hell you're going to get people back to work right now. Even to get people back to work now, it could be 6 to 12 months before we ever get close to normal in the supply chain. You don't fix supply chain issues overnight. There's very few things that you can just snap your fingers. There is probably 6 to 12 months of backlog and shortages, and going all the way back to the raw materials you need to manufacture things, on top of transporting them. We had issues, man. And on top of the healthcare workers, we're not out of this COVID thing yet. We got a long road to go. We got winter coming up. Who knows what might happen with the flu and COVID. We can't live in a world where we don't have like EMS and firefighters and nurses. What are we gonna do about it? I have not seen any. I don't hear governors talking about it. I don't hear the federal government talking about it. What are we doing to combat this issue? Does anybody know? Drop a comment below. I'm curious to hear, what's the plan. Does somebody have a plan? I don't know. That's all I got for this one. Actually pretty unfortunate to even see this story. It's something I talked about that could happen, and then to see it, it's scary. We're so used to thinking that no matter what happens, you're going to dial 911 and someone's going to come save you. But we're at a point where that might not happen. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Anyways, that's all I got for this one. I'm going to catch you on the next one.